Okay, welcome back everyone. Last time we prepared the OnLevelUp functionality and began the feature script and quest object. So this time we're gonna be uh, adding the feature to our MCM menu so that it actually does stuff now. We'll have it do update the player's actor values depending on the values we have set in the MCM that we created. So as usual, just open it up, click on your mod, set it as active file and click OK. It automatically loads the required master files, so you don't need to worry about that. Then find the quest that we have our scripts attached to, which is why I like putting KX on the end so I can search for it easy. Open a quest, and we want to open up our script. Now I'm going to be using Notepad++ again, but the normal way edit source works fine. So first thing we want to do is write a new float property for each actor value, which is going to be the value gained. It's going to store the value gained for each actor value, so that which is important because we need that to be able to effectively reverse our changes. So we do float property HP gained. And then we do the same for magic and stamina. So float, property, mag gained, auto. Always forget the auto on the end. And last stamina, float, property, stem gained, auto. Save it. And next up, sorry, I've got my notes in my other monitor. I just haven't done this in a little while. I wrote it down though. Then we need two integer properties to store the what level we're currently on and what level we last calculated. So we want an integer property. Whoops, integer property, player level, auto. Now we want them integers because the active value of player level outputs an integer, not a float, and it's just easier. Otherwise, you have to try and convert them to a float and back and forth and whatnot. We want another property, integer property. This one was level of last calculation, last calc, I think we'll do. So that'll just record the level the player was at last time we calculated their new stats. Next up, that's the variables done, or the properties done rather. Next, we're gonna write our first function. So what a function does is basically it's a block of saved code that we can activate just by writing the function's name. So rather than rewriting the entire contents of a function every time they are needed, we can simply just write the function's name and it'll execute all code within it, which is useful when you've got a lot of code that needs to repeat all the time. So first function, let's just call it reset stats function. Reset stats. And I prefer to use capitals for functions. It's because I learned to code C#, so and it doesn't like it when you use small letters in C#. I don't know if Papyrus is the same or not, but it's just a good habit to get into if you intend to learn further scripting beyond Skyrim. And I'm going to put in the end function because otherwise I'll forget to do it later. So the grammar of it is basically the same as an event. So you call it a function, then you give it a name, then you call end function when it's done. So within our function, first thing we want it to do is subtract the HP gained from the current HP value, which will effectively reset it back to the vanilla levels. So this, as the name implies, reset stats will reset the stats to what they would be if the mod wasn't installed. So to do this, we want to go game dot get player dot set actor value health apostrophe or comma. I can never remember which one's which. Game dot get player dot get base actor value. So this is sort of like you could think of it like the file path for a file. So we're accessing the game folder, then the get player folder, and then within the get player folder, we want to access the set actor value function. Then within that function, we want to tell it to modify health, and then we want to tell it to modify health with this calculation here, which is again accessing the game folder, then the player folder, and within the player folder, we're getting the player's base actor value, and we're telling that function to get health. So at the moment, that'll just set it to the health it's already got. So to make it actually reset, we need to add minus HP gained. So that'll subtract any HP that it's gained from our mod. Then we need to repeat this for our two other actor values. So we need to do Magica. Oops. Not sure if capitals matter in this string here. I'm guessing they do. This one's stamina, but I will just write them as they're written in the Creation Kit wiki for actor values, which is lowercase. And then we need to change HP gain to Magica gained. And we need to change that to stamina gained. We can save it. And then next up, we need to update. I believe we need to update the gain properties to 0. So HP gained equals 0. Actually, maybe I'll put that in order. Yeah, that's better. Next, we want Maj gained 0. And stamina gained. Stam gained equals 0. Save that. Always saving. And then lastly, we want this function to play a notification to the user to let them know that it's running if the stats are reset using our button. So we've got the button already set up from last time. So we just need to do a basic little if statement. If reset stats. Oops, reset stats boolean equals true. Then we want to display a debug dot notification notification, debug notification, oops, there we go, bracket, and then we input our string, balanced, leveling has removed its stat changes. Close the string, close the notification. So debug notification, as we talked about before, it just puts a little message in the top left of your corner of your screen. And we just want to end our if statement. And if. And then we want to set the reset stats boolean to false. Reset stats boolean equals false. Just to make sure that the checkbox in our MCM menu is always reset. If it was ticked, because otherwise we don't want it to just stay on, because then the user might open the menu and accidentally have it reset. They forget the button's ticked. And then double check for end function, which we do. Now, currently this function is never called, so it's just holding these instructions. It doesn't actually do anything with them yet. To call it, we want to trigger when the user clicks the reset stats button. So we need to go down and find the reset stats state, which is not there. I went past it. It'll be in our toggles. So reset stats. So when they click on select ST, we want it to trigger the reset stats. Oops, that was a capital. Reset stats function. And you need to remember to put these close brackets on it. And we only want to trigger that if the boolean is currently true. So if what was it again? Reset stats b equals true. Then we want to reset stats. And then we just end it. Put this in a bracket. Can't remember why you have to do that for if statements, but if you got complex equations in here, you have to do that anyway. I think papers will give you an error if you don't bracket them. So that's that done. So now everything, whenever this happens, whenever the script gets to here, it will execute everything that's within that function, which is very handy. Next up, we need yet another function, our last function, then we'll be done. So this function is going to do the actual calculations. So we'll call this function Statcalc. It's nice and easy to remember and nice and informative. Inside Statcalc, the first thing we want to do is call our reset stats. Oops, it's got the capital. Reset stats. So that'll reset us back to vanilla level so we can calculate from scratch. This makes it a lot simpler to do our retroactive calculations. I'm just going to put an end function so I don't forget to do it later. Then after reset stats, we want to update the player level property. So we do player level dot, not dot, player level equals game dot get player brackets, and then we want to use the get level function. Get level. So that will just set this integer to be equal to the player's current level. Then we want to calculate our new actor values. So this will update them. So we need to do similar to what we did earlier, game.getPlayer. dot set actor value. Could probably copy paste most of it from down here, but we're going to write it from scratch because it's better to practice that way. And you're less likely to forget things that make obvious mistakes and such. Okay. Set back to actor value. Sorry. We'll do health first, comma. Then we want to do our first calculation, which is HPF, which is determined by the slider in the MCM menu. We want to multiply that by the player's current level. And then we want to also add player's current stat, which is game dot get player dot get actor value, get base actor value, and we want to do health. And then we do a closing bracket. Actually, did we forget a bracket in here? No, it looks fine. And we want to do that for each of our actor values again. So Magica, and change that to Magf, and Magic again. Oh, if you're wondering how I copied these so quickly, in Notepad++ you can hold Control and hit D, and that will duplicate the current line, which is very handy for when you're repeating stuff like this. Stamina. And we want stamina F. And then we want to do stamina. And just save it periodically. I'm just doing Control S to save. You can click it up there, or if you're in the normal code editor, you can just Control S works too, I believe. Okay, so we've repeated that. We then need to update our HP gained values. Oh, sorry, our gained values. So HP gained. Oops, that's wrong. HP gained equals the HPF, HP float times the current level. Easy as that. So we have to do that for our other two actor values. Just going to put a space between them. Magica gained equals HPF times play level. So now these record, the gained values record how much we've actually increased or changed the stat by, so that we can reverse it with the reset stats function, where it subtracts the HP gained, or the gained values, sorry. And that will work even if they're negative too, which is very handy. Stamina gain, whoops, stam gained, that's what we want, equals stam F times player level. That's not wanted. Player level. Okay. Oh, that was almost a big mistake. We're going to change that to Mag F. Oh, I hit insert. Oops. Times player level. So if you're ever in a text editor and you're wondering why when you type it's replacing values like that, hit the insert button on your keyboard. We need to update our loss level calc. Actually, I don't think we need that value. I don't remember why we wrote it down. We don't use it. HP gained equals 0. Yeah, we don't need that value. This value here. Don't think. Just going to remove that. And then finally, we want a notification to let the player know that the mod is working. So we'll just do a debug notification. Debug notification. Did I spell that right? I think I spelled it right. Nope, I missed out an I. Debug.notification. Did I do the same thing down here? I did. Make sure you update that. Oh, you'll get an error telling you anyway. And when we try to compile it. Okay, so debug.notification, balanced, leveling has detected the player has leveled up to level that. And we want a space and our string. We want to add the player level variable property, and plus this string. And just put a nice little exclamation mark in there and close it. So that'll play every time this function's called at the end, so we know that it's calculated correctly and it's gone through the whole function. It just lets the player know that it's working. But of course, like the other one, it's just empty. It's just instructions that aren't called or told to activate anywhere, so we need to actually activate them. So we want to go down to reset stat. We want to go down to force calculate, and if force calculate, if force calc b equals true, then we want to do Statcalc. Oops, it's capitalized. Statcalc function in brackets, and then just an end if. And if, oops, keep hitting the wrong arrow key. There we go. Oh, actually, we probably want to put force calc to false. So we'll do that up here. Statcalc, do force calc b equals false. Just like the reset stats, so the checkbox is always updated to false if it's not used. If it's once it's done doing it, this thing, if that makes sense. God, I lost the ability to talk sense for a second there. Okay, so that should all be working. Now our features should be working. So you want to save it. We've already saved it. So we can close that. We want to open up the edit source, then the normal compiler, which a lot of you are probably using anyway. Just want to hit Control S and make sure it compiles. So we've made a mistake here somewhere. Where was our mistake? Line 27. So you can see which line you're on down here. I'll just maximize this so it's easier to see for people. I zoom in? No. Okay. Alright, where's line 27? It's around here. Line 27. What have we made a mistake on here? We're missing a right parentheses somewhere. Here. Okay. So after, yeah, we spelled this wrong. That's where we messed up with the insert button. The value. Oops, I spelled it wrong again. There we go. And now we're good to go. So we can close this. Click OK. And just you can keep the creation kit running. I'd recommend just saving it, but it usually doesn't matter too much for scripts. That's the wrong button. I want to boot our game. I want to open up our creation kit. Oops, that's the wrong thing. My bad. Don't want to open up a creation kit. I want to run the game.